Going to define your value, talk about the three aspects of service, know and state your value, and then, of course, know what you're delivering in your value. So, our roadmap for today is pretty easy. We're going to get through it. It's a lot of self-introspection and knowing what you bring to the table. All of us come from a different place, and trust me, there's great benefit that you can give to all of your clients based upon stuff that you can pull and strategies that you can pull from what you have done in your past. So let's start with what is a value proposition. So it's simple, precise description of the benefits the customer is going to get from working with you. 2, it's going to clearly convey all the things you do to earn the fee you charge so you can defend your commission. And then your value proposition is a covenant between you and the customer. What will you say when a client asks you why they should choose you over another realtor? And this is what you're going to be able to say at the end of today. So, the 3 aspects of service. If you turn to page 3 in your participant guide, you can see the 3 aspects of service are 2, know the underlying purpose of the real estate profession. Knowing why you're doing what you're doing can help you to craft the value proposition that you're going to have. And then, of course, have and communicate a clear sense of how you deliver on that purpose. I think it's so easy to write all this down, and then when you get in front of a client and they're actually asking you that question, being able to explain it without falling over yourself is a whole different animal. So make sure that you don't have to do it in front of friends or family first. I would record yourself. So record yourself doing your value proposition over and over and over, and eventually it's going to come like second nature. And then, of course, your fiduciary, exhibiting a continual drive to put your clients' needs above everything, especially your own. You don't want to have commission breath. They don't want to feel like it's all about the commission. And so having a really well-crafted explanation of why they should choose you takes away that commission breath. All right, so you're supposed to have filled in the blanks on page 3. Again, here are those 3 blanks that you can fill in, or 3 explanations of the blanks you can fill in. And really, it's all about customer service, and that has to be the core of your business. So focus on that, and everything else is going to come to you. All right, so what is the purpose of real estate? Well, it's different for buyers and sellers. For buyers, it's going to be having you find them the right home at the best price in the right time frame with the least amount of problems. And then for the sellers, it's about netting them the most money in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of problems. So what happens to your clients' buying and selling experience if you don't know what the underlying purpose is? If you don't know what a buyer is looking for or what a seller is looking for, how might that affect their experience? I can only assume that it would be frustration on their part. Most of us have been on the buying side one time or another, and if what I thought I needed wasn't what the agent was giving me, that would be extremely frustrating to me. Another thing is people find security in structure, and if you're not creating a structured system and understanding their needs and creating that structure for them, they are going to be scared. They're going to fall through the transaction instead of you purposefully moving them through the transaction. And that is not going to keep you clients for life. It's not going to get you referrals in the future. And really, that's where you're working towards. It's where every single one of the people that you've worked with gives you a couple referrals every single year so that you don't have to go out and always be seeking new business. And if you do, that's just to grow your business. But you have this solid foundation. All right, so it's significant that one phrase is shared by both the buyers and the sellers, right? They all want the least amount of problems. I know that we've talked about this in other Ignite sessions that you've watched, but you are not really real estate is not about showing houses. It's about solving problems. So the person that can solve the problems and anticipate the problems, not just solve them once they're there, but anticipate the problems, is going to be the person that more people ask and more people use for their realtor. So knowing what they need can help solve their problem before they even have one. So as a realtor, some of the problems you have anticipated with your clients, and what have you done to avoid them? So most of you are probably newer, but if anybody is been around for a little while, what are some of the problems that you've encountered? Or what are some of the problems you anticipate if you haven't been in the business? What do you think might happen?
Okay.
I knew you were gonna pause it. Just knew it.
Yep. So anybody at home that wants to chime in on this too, what would be some of the problems that you come up against and some of the things that you would anticipate?
Financing falling through?
Yep, financing falling through.
I'd imagine there might be problems with vendors, like whoever goes in and appraises, even if they need someone to come in and like remodel certain things.
Mm-hmm. Yep. What else?
Maybe they didn't fix
Getting
something.
outbid.
Maybe they didn't fix something that they were supposed to, like in terms of inspection. Yep. And then at home, somebody
Getting outbid.
getting outbid.
Yeah,
Yep.
outbid.
Yep, definitely. And so, and she, she'll go into this more, I'm sure, but basically, I mean, you just want to anticipate that stuff, be 3 steps ahead of everybody else, of everything else that's coming up. So knowing how to look forward, you want to make sure that, on the selling side, the best offer is going to be the one that has the least amount of deadlines, right? If they're going to write out the inspection, or they're going to write out the appraisal, or they're going to write out any of those objection deadlines that are in the contract, for the buyer, making sure that they're pre-approved, but also have you talked to the lender? Where are they at in the pre-approval process? Because some lenders' pre-approval letters mean a little bit more than other lenders' pre-approval letters, and they'll put them through a much longer, a more in-depth process, we'll say. They pull more of their things. They don't just ask them questions. They've actually verified more of their income or more of their background and all of those things. And again, having, like Heather was saying, your vendors, that's why you want to have a vendor list of people that you know and trust and can depend on. That you're not going to be sitting there at the last minute like, oh, so-and-so didn't show up, or they didn't turn in their report to us in time. Making sure that everybody knows what all the dates and deadlines are ahead of time. So when you schedule the inspection, don't schedule it on a Wednesday, knowing that your inspection objection is on Friday, and assume that the inspector knows, or assume that the inspector is going to get the report back to you by Friday. Tell them, hey, glad we have our inspection scheduled on Wednesday. We need that report back by, at least 9 a.m. on Friday morning, so that we can go over it and make sure that we know what we want to object. Does that make sense? So just thinking forward, there's a lot of things that are going to come up along the way, and just like getting in front of them before they happen. And you guys, the more transactions you have, the more you'll realize, because problems come up all the time, that it's like you could have done 1,000 transactions and you still haven't seen it all. But there's the general things, you know what I mean? Do you guys have any questions or anything else that you wanted to chime in on? All right then. She's not getting much feedback.
Maybe on her screen.
Yeah,
What do you guys think?
let's hear what they have to say on their end too.
Problems, I know that we're talking about the movies, and the movies make it seem like, well, and all these shows that you'll see out there, they make it seem like there's very few problems. And, you know, even the problem of timing is a huge one in a real estate transaction. And if you haven't done one yet, you may not know that, but timing in a real estate transaction and you understanding the timing as the agent is a huge issue. And that is something that you're going to need to navigate for them. We had problems with the inspections or the lender, absolutely. So knowing, first of all, going and getting buddies in the business or allied resources that you can trust, an inspector that you know is not going to be a deal killer and not kill the deal for you, or getting lenders that you trust and that you know, understanding the lending process, understanding the basics of inspection. All of those are things that you as the agent has to master, or at least be preventative in the problem. So you can't just be a problem solver, but a problems preventer. Oh yeah, zoning, easements, the appraisal not coming in, that is a huge one. One great benefit of Keller Mortgage is that they order the appraisal from the get-go. So during your inspection and option periods, whatever you have in your state, that can be utilized, or one of those problems isn't even there if you use Keller Mortgage. So just a little plug for Keller Mortgage. Deals falling through due to financing, huge. I mean, we have to know all of those problems are going to happen, and we have to be the ones to engage the proper techniques to make sure that our clients aren't going through it, because they get the closing crazies just like we do. All right, so speaking of the value proposition, what is it exactly? So going through and reflecting on the definition that you're seeing, let's see, distills your service offerings into a succinct set of benefits for your client. I like that. Very, very nice. It also helps hold you accountable to high standards. Everybody needs standards. And if you set down standards and you say, hey, this is what I'm going to provide to you, you are going to have to live up to those. And your client has a set of expectations they're going to have of you. So it's a really good one. It's one of the things is when you focus on a strong value proposition that puts the client's needs first, it pulls your ego out of it. One thing that I can say that we do very poorly in our industry is our value proposition, because we make a lot of assumptions that people know what the value they get or the benefit they get when we talk about something that we've done. So realtors in general get this, you know, kind of pushed off as if we're egotistical. And I don't think that's the case at all. I think that we're just really bad at our value proposition. So instead of saying, I've been in the business for 15 years, I have these 5 designations, I have a broker that does this, that, the other, I'm with the largest company in the city, I'm with the largest company everywhere, you know, you have all these things. Well, they're hearing I, but what we think we're saying is, I've been in the business 15 years, and so the experience that I have had can help you to have less problems in your transaction. I have these designations, so I have a higher level of education. The reason that's good for you is that I can navigate the transaction and get you more money. So we don't link what our value proposition is with the benefit to them. And so that's one of the things that we're going to do today, is make sure we have that link. Okay, because that pulls the ego out of it. You know, you didn't go sit in those classes for yourself. You sit in those classes so that you would have more knowledge to give to your clients. All right, your value proposition is what you bring to the experience. Your value proposition states, it phrases all of your skills, expertise, insights, and language, and makes them relevant to your clients. So how does changing the phrasing from I to focusing on the client affect their perception? Well, it pushes them from thinking it's about you to knowing it's about them. And that's really what you need to do. So every time you say it, make sure you're thinking about that. All right, so functionary versus fiduciary. The third and final aspect of service is fiduciary. So what is fiduciary and how is it different than functionary? Well, fiduciary is the duty you have to protect your client's best interest. It refers to a person that's working for another, and you have obligations under that. So being a fiduciary is a big deal. It's an honor. It's more important than ever in today's market. And we're all held to be doing that, right? So what are some ways that you can be your client's fiduciary in a real estate transaction? We talked about some of them. The time, understanding the timing in a transaction. What do you guys, you learned this in your pre-license class. I know that's a nationwide thing, right? So disclosure, making sure they're getting all the proper disclosures, accounting for funds as you move them across the transaction, confidentiality, making sure that you're not saying things you shouldn't be saying, basic lender information, basic inspection information, just knowing what you know, knowing what you don't know, and then always being willing to go to your broker or to someone and ask for the right answer. I think that's something that we have gotten away from a little bit that I think is just valuable. All right, so let's reflect on your value. If you go to page 5 and 6, I believe, in your guide, it's the section that says reflect on your value. So this is something where you're going to do a little bit of a self-reflection. Some people, this may be uncomfortable. Just breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. But you're not in the business anymore of promoting something for someone else. You're in the business of shameless self-promotion. It's one of the ways that you get all those people out there to understand and know that you are a good realtor that's not gonna, lead them down a pathway to misery in their transaction, but you're gonna give them the best experience. And so you have to know what you bring to the table. So what words would you use to describe yourself? How would people describe you? What skills do you have that make a great real estate agent? What experiences do you have that make you great at real estate? And then finally, consider 3 aspects of service: the purpose, value proposition, and fiduciary. And how can you improve your service based upon understanding these 3 things? So let's take a little bit of time and write about yourself, your strengths, your perspective. This is the foundational work for growing this value proposition. And really do this, like actually write it down. If you can't think of how to describe yourself or what makes you great, that's a problem. You definitely want to know your skill set. But even more than that, what did you do in your past jobs? What did you do before you got into real estate? And by the way, there is nothing that you can do out there that has no skills, 0 things. I find a lot of times that stay-at-home moms will come and tell me, oh, well, I was just a stay-at-home mom. Are you kidding me? Just a stay-at-home mom? No, that's time management. That's conflict resolution. That's encouragement and support through, some of the worst days. That is how to navigate through dealing with a lot of stuff every day. So those are still marketable skills.
Everybody in class is doing this. I hope you guys are too at home. This is a really, really good exercise to, like I said, like she said, creating your value proposition and knowing it is huge. Because when you know your value proposition, you can more effectively communicate it to other people. And when you know your value, you perform better, right? And when you get those no's from people that are like, you feel like you're getting kicked when you're down, you go back to your value proposition and you know that you're still the greatest real estate agent. And if they can't see it, then that's their problem, right?
Give you about 1 more minute on this because I really have at least one thing in every question there. You can just do bullet points, doesn't have to be a whole paragraph, but make sure you write something in there. Okay, now that you've done a little bit about your own value and kind of a foundation of what you got to do to create this value proposition, we're going to go in and see what sellers want, what buyers want, and then take our skills and what their needs are and kind of put them together to create this value proposition. So you can see on page 7, I believe, of your guide, what buyers want and then what buyers value. So helping you find the right home, negotiating, price negotiation. So terms and price, those are 2 separate ones for them. And that makes up the majority right there. So negotiations is going to be a huge one. Make sure you tune in for that section. And then, of course, finding the right home. And that takes more than just being a key, right? You don't want to be a Pop-Tart agent where you get a call, you pop out of your chair and you run to show them the house. You want to do a little bit of research on the neighborhood, know what exactly is going on in that neighborhood as far as trending. You can do that usually through researching your MLS or going and previewing homes, which you're supposed to be doing pretty consistently throughout this process. And that's why you do it, is so that you can know what the different areas are. And one of the things that I used to do is every day I would get up and I would make myself a fake client. And then I would have to search the MLS and figure out the right homes for that person. And then I would go and I would preview them. And that just allows you to get to know the area, do market research. And so I would definitely suggest doing that. What buyers value is honesty and trustworthiness, your experience, which some of you probably don't have a lot of that. However, you have life experience, right? So that works in there too. And you have a huge team behind you. So your people at your market center, your ALC, you may not have the experience, but you have somebody who in a drop of a hat will give you the answers you need for that experience. The reputation of an agent, if you're new, great, you don't have a bad reputation. No one deal is worth your reputation, so make sure that you keep that up because that's 16% of buyers value that. The agent being a family or friend is another one, so that's why you should be calling your sphere so you can get that one deal within that first 2 weeks. You're still in the second week, so you have time. So you can't go out and say that you're honest and trustworthy. That doesn't work. That is a surefire way to get people to think you're not honest and trustworthy. So how would you go about proving that? Well, you want to get testimonials. So testimonials are something that you can get, and that will allow people to think you're honest and you're trustworthy, because if these other people thought it about you, then most likely, they may too. So it does not have to be in real estate though. Honesty and trustworthy, you're not just honest in real estate and then you're not honest in everything else. So it can be in your former job, it can be friends and family. They can write little excerpts about you, little testimonies about you, and just say, hey, Susie's wonderful. She's always been a stand-up person. She's great. I would absolutely hire her whenever I need to sell my next house. So it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody who has a relationship with you because of real estate. But get those testimonials because that's what buyers value. Keep in mind these results are from a buyer being asked to state the one thing that is most important to them. Most buyers need help with paperwork, learning about their neighborhood, but when forced to give just one answer, this is what they said. So as much as all of that stuff that you're learning is important, being honest, being there, showing up, and doing the right thing, having that integrity is the most important. All right, so what are some ahas about the buyers section that y'all weren't aware of before? What are some things that kind of stood out to you about the buyers and what they want and what they value? I always think it's so interesting that finding the right home is so high up on everybody's list with the ability to search for themselves. So, but 52% said the most important thing that they wanted was for you to find it. They didn't want to go out and find it. But it doesn't feel that way when you talk about how many people are looking online, right? So I thought that was interesting. All right, let's go ahead and move on to sellers. Actually, let's go on and move to page 8 of your buyers section. And what skills do you have that would align with what buyers want? So we would take what we wrote down on page 5 and 6 on what our marketable skills were and say, oh, well, this marketable skill would work perfectly with negotiations. Maybe you've been in a job where you had to negotiate. Maybe you've been a headhunter. Maybe you've been a teacher. If you've been a stay-at-home mom, there's lots of negotiation that goes on there. Bedtime and whatnot. So what marketable skills do you have that aligns with that? What characteristics do you have that aligns with what buyers value? And then select a few of your answers from above, and we're going to rephrase them as benefits to your client. So remember, we talked again about, hey, I have this skill, but what does that benefit the client? And just because you're trustworthy does not help at all as far as a benefit for a client. You have to explain specifically what that benefit, obviously that's beneficial, but you'll have to explain to them specifically what that benefit is. So because I have a reputation for being trustworthy, I have a lot of people that I can go to who will give me knowledge, whatever it is. So rephrase that. So write at least one skill that you have, one characteristics that you have that would align with their value, and then write what benefit that characteristic and that skill is for that buyer. So go ahead and do that now. I'll give you about a minute to do that. So one thing about this is how you communicate this matters the most. So one of the things that you could say is, I'm honest and trustworthy, and so you can depend on me to help make the best decisions when it comes to navigating you through this transaction. Greg put, being a good listener is equally important as the knowledge of the neighborhood. Absolutely, listen to what they want. Ask them the right questions. If you're asking the right questions and you get answers that are poignant to them, you're gonna be able to match them with the right house. And so that might be even a thing. I'm a great listener, and because of that, I'm gonna make sure that I will serve your best interest and not to be showing houses that are not something that you're interested in. So I love that. Thank you, Greg. Okay, so again, use you more than I when you're talking about the wants of buyers and sellers and how you're going to communicate with them. Talk about we instead of me or I. That will help you out because they'll feel like it's about them. And your value proposition is talking about what you can do for someone else, not your own, not what you can do for yourself, right? Okay, let's go ahead and turn the page in your manual.
Okay,
What sellers want. So we've looked at what buyers want, and now here's what sellers want. This graph covers, or this list covers the top 5 responses and categories. So you can see help them market their home, help them price it competitively, help sell the home within a specific time frame, help find a buyer, and then help seller find ways to fix up the home and sell it. Those are the top 5 there. And then what they value is the reputation above all else, honest and trustworthy, friend or family member, knowledge of the neighborhood, and everything else is pretty low on that totem pole. So, yeah, I mean, everything rides and falls on your reputation and your integrity. And so you really got to keep yourself above bar in all those fields, right? So let's see. What are your ahas about this? Anything with the sellers want? And you have a good marketing plan when you go in, because obviously that's huge to sellers. Price it competitively and have a good marketing plan. Absolutely, Ken. Know where the question from Ken is, how important is it to begin with the understanding the client levels of experience and meet them where they're at? Absolutely. If you have a first-time seller or first-time buyer, they aren't going to know what they're doing. And you're going to have to be the professional and navigate them through that. And being a newer agent, that can sometimes be daunting. But if you just follow the model, follow what it says to do. Take your buyer representation agreement and your listing agreement and go through it on your own a few times in front of friends and family. Do it across, role play with someone in your office so that you're going through that. And if they're new, you're going to have to go and I have a 7-year-old, and I say, if I can explain it to my 7-year-old, then I'm doing it right. And it's not that you're explaining it to them as if they're a 7-year-old. You have to explain it in terms that are simple, and it has to be elementary. So as much as we know, because we've gone through classes and we've gone through stuff, they know absolutely nothing, or just what they've seen on TV. And so you're going to have to really explain to them step-by-step process. So go in and explain it to a small person and see if they understand it. And if you're explaining it correctly, they're going to be able to understand at least the process. And that will help. So yeah, knowing, and if they're an investor and they've bought and sold 50 homes, that's going to be touch and go. You're going to have to use your skills for negotiations. You're going to have to use your skills for arriving at the right price, but you're not going to have to explain a lot to them. They already have this isn't their first rodeo. So absolutely knowing where they're at and meeting them where they're at is vital. And you can only know where they're at through questions. And so actually have those deep conversations. Yes, it takes 2 times more words, absolutely. Okay, so sellers, go to your workbook on that. What skills do you have that you think would align with what sellers want? Marketing your home, pricing it competitively, helping to sell the home within a specific time frame. So being timely would be a huge one here. Finding the buyer. So what does your network look like? What are you willing to do to go out and find that? What characteristics align with what sellers value? And then, of course, make sure you bring in the benefits here. So I'm going to give you about 1.5 minutes for that one as well. Actually do it. Go into the workbook or write it on a piece of paper if you don't have the workbook in front of you. What skills do you have that you think would bring sellers, those buyers, pricing it competitively, and then ways you can help them know what to fix up, and then what characteristics that you have with what they value. Knowing the neighborhood, being a good listener, reputation, honest and trustworthy. And then what benefits would those things bring to a seller? All right, so what do you think the differences between buyers and sellers are, and why do you think they are different? So obviously there were a lot of similarities, and why do you think that some things are similar and then some things aren't with buyers and sellers? What are some ahas about when you look at what buyers value and what buyers want and the skill set you have to have for that, and then what sellers value and what sellers want and the skill set you have to have for that? What are some ahas that you have around that?
Okay, anybody in real life?
I thought it was interesting how the buyers, 52% of them, wanted an agent to help them look for a house, but like 20% wanted help from an agent to sell their house.
Because they don't have to pay for it on the buy side, right? What else? Anybody at home?
I would say, I think it's just interesting that everybody needs the honesty and the integrity part of it is vital. And so that needs to be the underpinning of everything you do. Start there. And then, of course, there's going to be things that you're not good at. And that's okay, especially if you're new. And if somebody came in and says to you, oh, I've been in the business 15 years, or I've been in the business 20 years, that doesn't mean that they are not new. Some people have their first year 15 times. So just understand that you've just gone through classes. You know probably just as much about some of the basics and the laws as anyone out there. And now you just have to get a little bit of experience. And with this field, with this industry, it's an experiential learning industry. I could teach you for days and days and days, and until you got out there in front of that client, it's not going to make a dang bit of difference. So you got to go out there, you got to experience it. Once you do that, you're gonna grow. So what are some opportunities you have for growth? You can write that on the top of 11. Do you need to go and maybe take a negotiations class? Do you need to go and take a CMA class? Because you're not too good on your CMAs, and you know that one of the biggest things that is important to a seller is having that right price. So if you know that that's the case, make sure that you put it in your growth opportunities. And maybe that you need to go and take each member of the ALC to coffee and say, hey, what was your biggest challenge? What would you have done if you were starting off in your first year? And just write down everything, and then that will be your growth opportunities. So those are all options for you. Okay, so who are your competitors? Real estate has undergone significant changes in the past few years. We've been hearing it a lot lately. Investors have come with an intent to disrupt the industry, and of course they have, from iBuyers driving down commission prices to companies moving toward eliminating the agent altogether. There's a lot of changes happening. I don't think real estate's going to look the same in 5 years as it does now, and definitely not what it did 5 years ago. But with that is good, because you're coming in at the time when you can learn it all from right now. You're not stuck in old ways. You can make that shift. You can make that change. But you do need to know who you're competing with. So who are your local competitors? Whether it be other real estate agents. Obviously, we're all competing with, the big companies like Zillow. You have to do what we call a little bit of guerrilla warfare, where you have to go and you have to figure out what other people are offering. What does their marketing look like? Are you getting, in your mailbox, are you getting direct mail? Austin Northwest Market Center. I am my only competition. I like that. Of course, you always compete to grow and be a better version of yourself. So what is your value proposition? What is their value proposition? Why would someone choose them over you? Well, if you don't have any stats, use your office stats. If your office stats aren't good, use your region stats. If your region stats aren't good, use KWRI stats because those are good. Whatever you need to do, go there and make sure that you have some value proposition as far as the numbers. And then your unique value proposition that is personally for you. I mean, I didn't see anyone on here with buyers or sellers say that they were the best largest company that sold the most. I don't see that as buyers or sellers value, right? They want honesty. So even if you get to that point, as long as you're honest, that's what's going to matter most to everybody. So whether you sell whether you're brand new or whether you're the top agent, honesty and integrity, that's going to matter. So make sure that you use the stats that you can, and then always back it up with honesty and integrity and knowledge and experience. All right, so how do you counter those value propositions? You got to know them first. And really, relationships, your database, knowing those people in there, connecting with those people, creating deeper connections with the people that are in there now. There's something that has been used in sales for a long time is never lunch alone. Always take somebody out to lunch, take somebody out to coffee, and eventually the conversation, it can go to real estate. It's not something you have to have right off, but be proactive about getting out there and talking to people and creating those deep relationships. You are the value and your time is the value, so utilize that. All right, increasing your value with technology, page 12. So a great thing about being part of Keller Williams is the company is committed to adding to your value proposition through no extra things that you have to do. So we are investing in technology that's propelling your business forward. We've already talked about command, and now we're going to focus on tech that affects your clients directly. So we have agent sites that allows contacts to save home searches, allows agents to create searches on behalf of contacts and clients, and then it'll automatically update them. That is wonderful. So that is one technology. And then your individual IDX sites, you can create personal landing pages for your clients that allow them to see the activity in the neighborhoods they care about. And then, of course, the KW app. That's going to be an end-to-end consumer app that uses the power of AI, machine learning, and your expertise to communicate, provide transaction transparency, and, of course, remind your clients of your value. I always talk about this when I'm talking with people about Keller Williams. I say it's kind of like Amazon Prime. I have 5 kids, all different ages. If you were to go into my Amazon Prime, it's probably very different than your Amazon Prime unless you are planning a neon 7th grade or 7-year-old skating party. But Amazon knows that, and it is a very curated experience for you when you go into yours, and it's a very curated experience for me when I go into mine, and that adds value. What industry is better suited for a very curated experience between the agent and the consumer than real estate? I mean, I can't imagine it. So we become that experience. When somebody comes in and goes to their KW app, they're going to feel like, wow, how did they know that I wanted a 2-story house with wood floors? Well, you were looking for it yesterday, and now it looks like your agent went in and handpicked exactly what you were looking for. So that's going to be such a value. So it's definitely a technology that has a benefit for the client. The whole experience around working with a Keller Williams agent is going to be fantastic compared to what else is out there. So let's go ahead and do the activity that's on page 12. You'll write down the technology that you're providing or that Keller Williams is providing on your behalf, and then you want to take it to the benefit for the client. Remember, everything has to go back to that benefit. So I'm going to give you about a minute to do this. And if you want to go to kwconnect.com/tech-enabled agent, you can see it in your guide. You can find all sorts of different technology. Don White put in here, when you have the relationship, you compete less. That is so true, Don. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. You don't necessarily need everything if you have that relationship. And then at the bottom, you can always write an additional piece of technology that you can bring that might help your clients, and look into it. If you don't have one, no big deal. Again, go to that link and you can see different things that Keller Williams is going to be pulling out on your behalf. All right, now we're going to get down to business. Page 13 and 14 in your guide. This is where you're bringing all of this stuff together. So we've talked about what value we have. We've talked about what sellers want. We've talked about what buyers want. Now we're going to put that all together in a value proposition. So remember, it's unique, memorable, persuasive statement that expresses your true value and what people are going to experience when working with you. You're earning your commission here. This is the chance for you to be able to work for them, and it holds you accountable to your high standards, and it allows them to understand what to expect. Okay, so go through, review your answers on all of the previous pages, and brainstorm what you want to include in your personal proposition statement. So this is a mind map. So what about your character do you want to maybe put in this? What about your services? What specific services that you provide? What skills? Your skills and your character are probably going to be pretty heavy right now, just because you may not have the services part of it yet, and you may not have the knowledge part of it yet if you're just starting out. If you have, the services, you can absolutely bring Keller Williams Tech and Keller Williams Service, so that's going to be finite on that. And then knowledge, of course, that's going to be something that you get with time, but you have knowledge that you're bringing in. And then, of course, you can add your own here. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes to do that. And for those of you who aren't too keen on scripts, this is a script that you can use. Scripts are just dialogue that you say over and over. And when you find something that resonates with somebody, whether it be you were talking to your friend and it helped them to move along in the conversation about selling their house, and something you said, you'll say that again next time. Same thing with this. You're going to kind of mold this value proposition based upon what resonates with people. And so you want to start now, and then over time, you're just going to grow. It's going to grow. But I really want you to do it. Actually stop and write down what are some of these things that you could add in here. You also want to try to work your value proposition into the conversations that you have without it being super obvious. You gotta learn to finesse this. Otherwise, then it comes from a place of ego. All right, so now that you've visualized and you've put some of this into the mind map, go to page 14, and this is where you're going to actually write your statement. Make sure you include marketing and how you're going to do that. Make sure you include those skills. Your value proposition needs to hold you accountable to high standards. So if you say, hey, I'm going to be available to communicate, make sure you explain to them what that means. Have some hard edges around it, because you teach people how to treat you. And as an agent, if you set the expectations, I will always be available to you, and then they call you at 11 o'clock at night one day and you just happen to be awake, so you answer the phone. Every other time that they call you at 11 and you don't answer, that's you failing on your value proposition. So just put some hard edges around it as well. You want to make sure that whatever you're willing to commit to is something you're willing to commit to. And this is how you defend your commission. Hey, why should I choose you instead of someone else? Well, because I will do this. There's a reason why people choose me. It's because I make the experience fun. I bring a sense of humor into it. I mean, it can be something as simple as a sense of humor. Sometimes you have to laugh so you don't cry in real estate transactions. So they're not always easy. And a lot of times you are the person that is buffering your client from all of the other junk that's out there, and you're solving the problems for them. Make sure you're not a secret agent. Make sure you go back to them and let them know what you've done to solve their problem. But you can't just assume that they know that, and you can't just sit back and not do anything, because that's your job. That's your fiduciary part. And once you do that enough times, people aren't going to ask you to cut your commission. If you lean in on a pretty important problem that you solved, and you explain to them your value, and starting with this, they're not going to ask you to cut your commission. So you have to be able to defend your commission. Anonymous writes, commitment to my clients to strive to develop the highest quality services by protecting and promoting clients' best interests, and to be the agent of choice. I like it. Very, very succinct, nice, explains what you're wanting to do. I like that. All right, so what are some ahas? Was that a little more difficult than what you thought it would be? I think talking about ourselves sometimes puts people into a different set. But make sure, even if you didn't get it all done right now in our time together, that you take a good hour and you work through this in your head. You work through, okay, hey, these are the 3 main skills that I have, or things that I'm bringing to the table, and now take each of those and create 3 or 4 things that's going to benefit for a client, and then put that all together. And like, this is what I'm going to do. This is going to be my way of doing business. All right, so now you have your unique value proposition statement. Let's take a look at what that delivering on that means. So Keller Williams' stance on integrity is integrity in all things, and you can find that in the Y4C2Ts. It's been around for a very long time. If you don't know what that is, look it up. I think there's a little video on KW Connect about Kellerisms, so you may want to look that up. We have a lot of them. On page, let's see, 16, I believe we're at, no, 15 in your guide. What kind of knowledge are you expected to have? What kind of knowledge would you set you apart from your competitor? That is part of this. The other one is being a hyper-local expert. And having that takes having buddies in the business. And you can learn to it. You have to learn the zoning laws, the future development plans, the ecological changes. You have to know what's going on in your area. Go to some of those city council meetings. Go and talk to the city planner, find out what they're doing. Your title companies are a great way to find out what's happening in your area. If you have title companies in your state. The continuous drive for knowledge and improvement is part of our 6 personal perspectives. It's another great course if you haven't taken it. You should. Which perspectives do you think apply here? Will always be learning, focusing on going from just flying by the seat of your pants and your entrepreneurial talent zone to being purposeful in everything you're doing. E to P is what we call that. It's definitely something that you would employ here. Let's see. The 6 personal perspectives is a great class. If you have not done that, go look it up, find it in your region, and absolutely take that class. Gary created that a long time ago, and it's some of the best business strategies and best practices of the entire company are born out of that specific class. Okay, so how do you learn these things? How do you keep your knowledge up to date? Well, you're going to have to identify resources for you to educate yourself in your specific area. So on page 15, is there an HOA? When do they meet? How do I find their bylaws online? When does the city council meet? Does your chosen neighborhood have any dedicated member groups on social media? Nextdoor, you have that app as well. Can you get on there? Where does the neighborhood get its water, power, trash collection? You need to know all of this about the houses and the areas in which you're going to be working. And how deep you need to go depends on how many areas you're going to have to learn, right? You may just have a small card about all of the neighborhoods. You might just slowly over time learn them. I always find that no matter where I go, there's always more to learn. My first deal was, one of my first deals was out in a suburb of Austin, and I was buying 5 acres for them to have a dog rescue camp. And I learned all about a lot of stuff through that transaction. So again, make up a crazy transaction and go out and research the areas in which you could do that. What are the restrictions? Does it need septic? Learn about septics. Am I going to have to worry about it being a business on the place? Is there an HOA? So you definitely need to go and do some research ahead of time. That's going to be where your real value for your people comes in. And you don't necessarily have to have a real client. Just go and make it up if you have to. Okay, so write down a couple of resources and what you can learn from those resources. Definitely go to the HOA meetings if you're going to farm and be in a particular area. And then, of course, reach out to your buddies in the business. So on page 16, there are 3 aspects of service: knowing the purpose of real estate, your value proposition, your fiduciary role. They all contribute to the same goal, which is ensuring the best experience for your client. Now you understand each of those, and you can deliver the best experience you can. So what qualifies as a real estate experience? You can make it up. You can make up the different things and get that experience without actually going through at least the neighborhood experience and understand what's in a specific neighborhood. You may not have the transactional experience just yet, but that will come in time. But you can go out there and you can know what's going on in a neighborhood, if nothing else. And then, of course, what allied resources can you leverage? So you should always develop relationships in your business, in your town, with people you might need: doctors, dentists, pet services, inspectors, lenders. And so what are 3 to 5 standards any business you partner with would uphold your value proposition? Which means that anytime you're going to give those names out, you need to make sure you have a sit down with whoever your clients are going to be involved with, and make sure that where they're going is along the same lines of where your company's going, because you don't want that to be too far off. And then make sure you have some questions that you're going to be asking them to hold them to those standards. Who can be your team? You may not have a big team just yet, but you're going to create it through allied resources that you're going to be working with. Those people are going to have your back. You should have a script on how to contact your allied resources and talk to them. All right, so lastly, we're going to do some recapping and ahas. What was your big aha about your value proposition? Give me at least someone. While I'm getting that, what I'm going to do is make sure you're doing your success list. You're creating that every day. That is in your toolkit. You want to make sure that you're going through that. You're doing the 30 minutes, the hour of lead generation, and then the 30 minutes of follow-up. You want to do that every day. Do your 10-4. Make sure you do it. If you do it, you will absolutely succeed. Alex asked, what kind of questions would I ask my allied resources? Well, for lenders, you definitely want to ask just some of the basics. What products do they do? Are there any discounts? I always think that you have a multitude of lenders that will only do A, B, and C. And then you have some lenders that do all sorts of different programs and are willing to do that. There's some lenders who won't ever be in front of your clients, and you know that you have a client that needs that face-to-face, that belly-to-belly. You want to make sure that this is somebody who's going to do that for you. For inspectors, you want to see what their report looks like. How many deals don't go through after they inspect? How do they explain to a client what's going on? For plumbers, electricians, all of that, you definitely want to have a couple of referrals that you can call and ask, hey, how was whatever happened? One thing that I always ask is, when everything goes bad, what do you do? So if if you are doing a job and you know that you messed up, or one of the people that you've hired or somebody on your team messes up, what do you do to make that right with my client? Because you'll have somebody who orders the wrong tile, puts in the wrong tile, and you're the one who suggested that tile guy. And so you have to go back to your client and say, well, this is what's going to happen. They're going to eat that and they're going to fix it. And I am so sorry. This is not their usual MO. So you have to have people that are always going to step up and do the right thing and make sure that that's who you are surrounding yourself with. And by the way, make sure that you're doing that too, because that's going to go to everybody. I'm glad that this helped for some of you. And it wasn't as hard to come up with your value proposition as you thought it would be. I'm glad for that, Terrell. All right.
Okay, so a couple other things I was gonna tag on to what she had said was with your allied resources. And everybody at home can still hear me, yes? Sorry, we just have to make sure every time.
Yeah, I can barely hear you, Brett.
You can barely hear me?
Barely.
Okay, well, that's fantastic. 1 second. How about now?
That's better.
That's better?
Yep.
Okay, so for the allied resources at home, or not at home. Glad everybody at home can hear me. And for allied resources, what I was gonna follow up with is that for lenders, I asked them what their follow-up looks like after closing, because once the sale is closed, you still want those people to be followed up with, because when they sell their house in 5 or 10 years, you want to be the one that sells it. And so lenders will often send out, you know, if anybody has ever owned a home, they send things out to you, letting you know what your home value is, letting you know, how much equity you have as a, you know, not just the monthly mortgage statements. Because a lot of people don't get monthly mortgage statements anymore. They do paperless billing and all of those things. But some lenders will actually do some co-branding. And so they have your name and their name on everything that they send out after the closing. And it would be something that is just another, you know, another touch that's kind of a nice value add for them. I also ask everyone on my vendor list, how long do they take to respond to a client's inquiry? Like if the client has a question about their service or whatever is going on in the process, are they gonna make sure that they respond to that client the same business day, or are they going to be waiting to call them back until, you know, the next day, or do they fall off on their communication? You know what I mean? It's understanding how well they communicate. And before I actually schedule someone for a job, I will kind of test the waters with that and call them and leave them a voicemail at a time when I know that they most likely won't be answering, and then see how long it takes them to get back to me. Setting up maybe an in-person meeting with them beforehand and seeing if they hold that meeting, if they reschedule, if they're late. You know what I mean? Just little things like that. And you're kind of vetting them, because you want them to be, how they treat you is how they're going to treat most likely your clients. And especially if they can't uphold, good standards when they're meeting with you, knowing that you could be bringing them potential business, you know, you just never know. What ahas did you guys have around just the entire value proposition? What did you guys feel about that exercise? And she did the mind map. How did you like the mind map exercise?
It was a good way to like list everything on like one spot, like in a small circle.
Yeah, some people have a better spatial visual brain, we'll say. Do you guys feel like this has changed your thinking about the way that you do business or the way that you present yourself? No?
I always say no, just because I mean, just in business school, like your value proposition is like a word you hear all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Somebody at home trying to share?
Yeah, I felt the biggest helpful tip, I mean, I might not be experienced in real estate, but I got strengths from other fields that I've seen over the years that I feel could transfer over to that. So I just found that helpful.
Yeah, exactly. And like we said before, when you feel that you have value, you're gonna do a better job. You're gonna be more of a go-getter, right? Because it's hard when you're very first in and you don't have any deals under your belt and you kind of don't feel like, what is my value? So really defining this, like I said at the beginning, it helps you guys, or it helps your clients, but it helps you as an agent more. Let's see, so any other shares from today so far before we take our break? Kathy says maintaining communication with clients and allied resources is key. Yep. Absolutely.
It helps you know your why. And if you don't know your why, then you know, it makes it very hard to go and do the job. But it helps you really, you know, this helps solidify your why. So you get up in the morning, you know what you're doing, and it makes you feel, you know, it just makes you better about what you're going to do in your job.
Yep, exactly. Absolutely. All right, well, thank you guys. Let's see. Let's take a 10-minute break. So back at 10:28, does that work for everybody? Okay. Break. Go. All right, is everybody back?
I'm back.
Yep, I'm here.
Awesome.
I'm back.
Yay. Most of you came back. All right. So now we're on Spark 7, find and win the buyer. I'm gonna hold punches for it. Does everybody have their? You have yours? Okay.
Hi everyone, welcome to our lab today. I am super excited to be with you. My name is Shayna Moats and I am here in Austin, Texas for Market Center number 1 for Ignite and to teach you about how to find and win buyers. I've been in the real estate business since 2013, and I'll tell you that buyers are one of my favorite categories of clients to work with because they're happy and they're fun most of the time. My husband and I have a team here in Austin, and we have 2 little girls that take up most of our time. I'm really passionate about teaching this class. I've taught this class actually for about 5 years in my own market center, and it was really important for me when I was starting out as a brand new agent because it really opened my eyes to what I was able to do. So before I took Ignite, my first year, I had no leads. I was working every weekend doing open houses Saturday and Sunday from 1 to 4. In fact, before I had taken Ignite, I think I was at like open house number 30 without taking a client, without setting an appointment. And I was super frustrated and about to give up. I went to my open house class, my Ignite class, and it was about open houses and finding buyers. And I just tweaked a few things with my scripts. It gave me some confidence. And on open house number 37, I finally booked an appointment. And later that year, I went on to win Rookie of the Year for my market center, as well as for the city of Austin. So I hope you're ready today for a really informative class. I have a lot to talk to you about in a short amount of time, so we're going to move kind of quickly. But first, let's do a little housekeeping. So if you are joining me live today, thank you so much for being there. You're welcome to turn on your camera so I can see your face because this is an interactive class. Here's some controls for you. If you would like to ask a question, you can raise your hand. And if you would like to talk, you'll need to press the microphone at the top of the screen and hold it down. You can also send me a message on the chat, and you can also submit your questions on Slido number 1437. So, like I said, we just went over a chat window. Your course materials, you should have gotten those. So have those handy. We're going to reference those as we go through the class today. And at the end, I need you to take the survey so that they can tell me I did a good job. That's real important. So Ignite is really the fundamentals of everything. Like I said, I spent 6 months spinning my wheels trying to get started, and it was pretty frustrating for me. The goal of this new Ignite that we're labbing right now is really to spark your business and to get you into action immediately. That means getting that first appointment within the first 2 weeks of this. And I don't know about you, but that probably would have changed my entire year and made it even more fruitful than it was. So this is, I know that for those of you that have been a part of this lab for the last 2 weeks, you've seen this quite a bit, but this is what successful agents do every day. They grow their business and they run their business. And we know that success leaves clues. So it's real simple. It's just hard to do. So we lead generate for buyers and sellers. We go on seller listing presentations and buyer listing presentations, and we preview real estate. We're marketing our listings, showing houses to our buyers, negotiating contracts, and taking care of all of the administrative things that our business requires. Today, we're going to focus on growing our business through buyers. So, are you ready to jump in? Today, we're going to talk about finding and winning our buyers. Let's talk about finding buyers. Now, where can we find buyers? This is the interactive part, so feel free to chat with me or raise your hand to talk. Where can we find buyers?
Open houses,
Anywhere, really.
anywhere, at the grocery store.
The store? Online? Absolutely.
Wow.
We could find them at open houses, like I mentioned. Where else can we find them? Everywhere we go. You went straight to the punchline, Jessica. Buyers are everywhere, right? We can get them from referrals. We can find them when we're networking. We can meet them at the park. Literally everywhere we go, buyers are there. That's the important thing to remember.
Hold on. Is everybody at home still there?
Yep, we're here.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, you guys can still see the video and everything?
Yep, I see it.
Okay, I don't know why that just happened, but I just wanted to make sure we didn't lose everything.
Remember is that everywhere you look around, there are buyers. We know from some statistics that from NAR that 89% of buyers actually use a real estate agent to purchase their home. So that's a pretty large percentage. And 41% of those found their agent from a referral through a friend. So how important are relationships? Pretty important. Yeah. Okay, so 75% of buyers interviewed only one real estate agent. Why is it that buyers only 75% of them interview one real estate agent?
They want to go buy.
They like the first one they met, or they knew them all.
We're still interactive here. Is it maybe too much trouble? Or maybe they built so much trust with the first agent that they met? It could be either of those things.
That you want to be the
And
first one.
interestingly enough, May
Why?
says they find what they need with the first agent. I agree with you, May. I think you're right. Interestingly enough, 51% of buyers visited an open house as a way to search for homes. This is why open houses are one of my very favorite forms of lead gen. They're super easy. There's a very low cost to them. And really, it's your time, right? So especially when you're starting out and you don't have a ton of resources to put towards your lead generation, I love open houses because you're spending time and honing your skills in person right where buyers are. Okay, so let's talk about cultivating buyer leads. And really, I believe that cultivating buyer leads and qualifying buyer leads go pretty closely together. So we're finding our buyers and we're qualifying them. This is our lead generation model. So we know that once we capture our lead, right? So from whatever funnel that came through, we separate them into leads and contacts. And from there, we cultivate them based into different places. How qualified are they? How far out from purchasing are they, right? And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But what I really want to talk to you about today is something that Gary and Jay talked about during family reunion last year, and that was about the value proposition. We know that our value proposition to buyers in the past has been access to information or access to listings. And as we get disrupted and other companies and other technologies are eating into that value proposition, we have to go deeper into our value propositions in order to cultivate our buyers and qualify them. So what are value props that we can actually provide for our buyers? When you're meeting a buyer and you're trying to display why they should work with you, what is the value that you can bring to them? It's information. Absolutely, May. Yes, it is. Information. It is expertise. It is professionalism. Access, right? I mean, they cannot technically get into a home by themselves, and you know the market better than they do, so you may also know things that they may not know. Giving them access to that type of information is extremely valuable to them. And I will role play a little bit later. May has so graciously volunteered to role play with me. Don't be nervous, I promise. I don't bite. I will role play kind of the script I used whenever I did a ton of open houses and picked up all of my buyers there. So, and I think that that's a really great way of understanding the value prop. Now, one of the ways I struggled in my first year actually was staying in touch with all of the people that I had put into my database, right? So I would do this open house Saturday and Sunday. I would put them into my database, name, email, phone number, any information I had gathered on them. And then, you know, I think my average was it would take me 9 or 10 attempts to get back in contact with them. Well, that's a huge waste of time, right? So how can we be smarter? One of those things that we can do is smart plans. And so is anyone familiar with smart plans yet? In Command? Yes, maybe. Okay, well, that's okay. We're going to walk through it together today. Oh, Lorraine loves it. I know, it's a pretty amazing tool, isn't it? I'm really enjoying it so far. So today we're going to talk about smart plans a little bit, and I'm going to walk you through how to add a contact to one of our smart plans. So let's go ahead and go. And you're welcome to watch me, or you can follow along in your own account. So here we are. Let me take you back to the home screen so you can see where you are. This is my command. You can see that I have no tasks for today. I am just on top of it, let me tell you. Okay, so let's see here. Here's my smart plans. Now, some of this might be empty for you. If it is, you can go into the library right there and click a smart plan that you'd like to add into. So for example, I think the 8x8 new contact engagement, let's take a look at those steps. So it sends a text. There's a delay of 7 days. There's a task to touch them again, and then another week. Phone call, another week, send another text, and then an email, and then a phone call, and then a text, and then another chance to touch them. So that looks like a pretty good reminder for me. I'm going to go ahead and add that smart plan. Click apply. I want it to be applied towards my contacts. And now it'll show up in my smart plan library. There's two ways to add contacts to this. So I can go right over here to actions on the right and click here. And I could search by name. So for example, I know Aaron is in my database. There's Aaron. I could click him and click add to Smart Plan. Also, let's say, for example, I just did an open house at 123 Main Street. I could create a tag in Command that says 123 Main Street, add that tag to all of the clients that I met at that house, and then add them to a Smart Plan by searching for that tag. Why would I want to categorize them by open house?
Anyone?
So you remember them.
Can anyone give a guess as to why that could be helpful?
Oh.
Well, I'll just give you the answer then. So whenever I was doing a lot of open houses, I would meet a ton of people. I mean, 20-ish every week, right? And it was hard to keep everyone straight. So if I could then put them with the house that I met them in, it would help jog my memory and remind me of who they were. I'd also write down characteristics like red shirt, 2-year-old daughter named Alyssa, right? And that really helped me remember who they were so that I could have a more personal conversation with them when I did get back in contact with them. Okay, so we've added Aaron to our Smart Plan. Now let's say you were going through your contacts and wanted to add some to your Smart Plan. You can also do it there. So you can click here, add to Smart Plan. I mean, there's many ways that you can do it. You can select a bulk action. So if there's a lot of people or you wanted to add everyone in your database to a Smart Plan, for example, the neighborhood Smart Plan might be a good one. Select bulk action, add to Smart Plan. It's pretty simple, right? I think so. Yeah. So if I would have had this ability back in 2013 when I was first getting started, I can't even imagine what my business would have done if I had this type of automation reminding me to follow up with all of these nurtures that I had met at the open house. It might have propelled me a little bit more forward, right? And given me more time back in my day to spend with my family and my kids and on other lead gen activities. Any questions so far or about Smart Plans in general?
Does it automatically like,
Don't forget you can use Slido. Oh, and I see here.
We had a question in class, if you guys can hear me, if it will text them.
yeah, it said that, you know, that one in particular, it said like text, email,
Yep.
you know, touch, blah, blah, blah. So-
Yep, so you can set it up through, to connect with a Twilio account. And it'll automate text messages that way. So, and it can be set up to where it comes from, like, so you know, the text messages that we get from, that you guys get from the market center, from the office, those are all through Command. We are all on Smart Plans as agents with the market center, and they're able to keep up with us that way. So, and you would have it set up to where it'll send you text messages or send them text messages, I believe, to show that it would come from your phone number that you already have. Okay, that's a good question though.
So you know where they started looking in? Y'all are smart people here. Any questions so far? Nope? All right. Well, let's keep going then. Okay, so now we're going to talk about qualifying buyer leads. And like I mentioned, I really found that cultivating the buyer lead and qualifying the lead went together, because when you get them on the phone, like I said, it took me 9 touches to get them back into contact with me after the open house conversation. What I learned from that is I needed to set the appointment and qualify them at the open house, not afterwards, right there, right? And so this process, I believe, actually kind of goes together. Okay, so let's talk about our different type of buyers. We have A, B, and C buyers. Does anyone here segment their database by A, B, and C? May is saying no. Real quick, I'm going to hop to this question. So someone had asked, would you put them on the open house neighborhood landing page? I think that that is a great idea. I've never thought about that. But if they're visiting open houses in that area, you know that they are interested in living there, and you're literally providing them what their interest is, right? To their email, to their app, whatever they're using to access the information daily. And they're seeing your name associated with it. So they're being reinforced. You know, let's say Western Oaks, Shana Moats, every single day. Who do you think they're going to call when they see a house they like and they want to see it? It's so simple. Do the emails and texts send automatically, or does it just send you a reminder to send them? That's a great question, Misty. I believe right now it is not automated. I believe some of the emails are automated if you make them automated. I'm double checking.
What's the question? If the text and emails are automated, or if it should be reminded.
Yes. Okay. So there are some things that you have to do. I know that in the future, the goal is for these things to be automated when you would like for them to be automated. So can you imagine like putting someone in command and putting them on your open house follow-up plan, them immediately getting a text message from you saying, hey, this is Shana Moats. It was so great to meet you at the open house. I really look forward to talking with you again. Like,
I believe right now, at the time that this recording was made, I think that we couldn't do much automation. Now there's some automation and some is not. If you guys have questions about what all is automated, just double check with Amy around how it needs to be put together in the smart plan to make sure that it goes. But you'll get task reminders and everything too. Or you can do it where there's reminders of just remember this email went out today or things like that.
and you didn't do anything. You just simply put them in command. So I know it's coming. I don't believe it's ready just yet. So let's talk about A, B, and C buyers. We know that our A buyers are ready to go, right? They're the ones that are like, I need to buy now. Our B buyers, they're kind of in the waiting period. Maybe they have a lease that they're waiting on to end. Maybe, there's something kind of that they've put the search on pause for. Maybe they're 3 to 6 months out. I call my A buyers like 0 to 60 days, my B buyers about 90 to 120 days, and then C is after that. And C could mean, Shana, one day we'd really love to live in this neighborhood. We're just not quite there yet. Or we know that in 2 years we're going to be moving because of our daughter's school, right? Okay. Now, this is the buyer lead sheet. And although this sheet can feel a little intake form-ish, it's really important. Here's why. This is basically a script, okay? So when you are speaking with a buyer, these are the things that you kind of want to keep you going through your mind. So one of the things that I did whenever I was first starting out is I wrote down 200 questions that might be important to ask a buyer. Things like, how many bedrooms are you looking for? What areas are important to you? What schools do schools matter? Do they not matter? How large of a home do you want? 1 story or 2 story? I'm coming from curiosity and using that to learn more about what they're looking for. I often found that filling out this form, I would never actually have the sheet and fill it out. I just kind of used it as a guide for myself. I found that walking buyers through this helped them clarify what they were looking for. They weren't quite sure, but through our conversation, they were able to get more clarity on what they wanted, and that enabled them to be more ready to buy. So it kind of helps us both. So this should not feel like an intake form. Like you're not sitting there like name, age, children's names, right? It's conversational. You're saying, hey, it's so great to meet you. I understand that you're really interested in purchasing in this neighborhood. Tell me more about yourself. Okay, so you have 2 kids. Great. How old are they? Oh, so cute. So they're getting to be that school age, or school's important to you. Gotcha. Okay. And so you have 2 kids. Do we need 3 bedrooms? Are you thinking maybe 4? Right? It's conversational. You're going through this with them to help discover what they want and help them discover what they need, right? This is also so important to finding their motivation. What does motivation mean? Can anyone tell me what motivation is?
One.
Deb says why they are buying. Correct. So what is the whole reason I'm even talking with them in the first place? Is all motivation the same? I see May shaking her head. She says no. It's true. Not all motivation is the same. So motivation could be anything from our home is too small and we really want to upgrade. It could be our daughter starts kindergarten in 3 months and we want to move to a different school district. It could be that our home is too large and we want to find a smaller home, or we want to live in a different area. Or what if they say something like, well, I'm just kind of looking for a deal? Is that motivation? It could be. It could be, yeah. It kind of depends. You'd have to dig more into that to figure it out. But that's what this qualifying is about, is to dig into what they're looking for and why. And then you use that to set your appointment, okay? So I'll give you an example of that later when May and I are role playing. But what I like to call it is my RVA. So I build rapport with them. I find some sort of common ground. I show them my value proposition. So as I'm asking them questions, I'm saying, that's really interesting. Did you know XYZ? Or I can get you a resource that would help you understand that. Or I can connect you with blah, right? You're giving value to them. And in return, you're gaining their trust. And once you've accomplished RV, you go for A, which is either the agreement or the appointment. And we'll get to that in a little bit. So let's keep going. Now we're going to talk about signing the buyer agreement. We're going to ask for the business, ask for the appointment, and then assess their financing needs. When I started in this business, I was so scared to ask for the appointment. It killed me, but yet I realized I was wasting my time by not doing it, right? Why am I even having these conversations if I'm not going to ask for the appointment? So I made this deal with myself. I said, no one is going to walk in this open house without me asking for the appointment. And if I ask for the appointment with every single person that walks in, then I get a snow cone on the way home from my open house. Because I live in Texas, and putting out open house signs in 105-degree weather is horrific. But Bobby's going to call me out on that because I made him do all my open house signs. So it's okay, though. Okay, so it's super important to ask for the business right there. How can we ask for the business? What does that look like?
Anyone? How can we ask for the business?
See if they have an agent, see if they're working with anybody.
Asking them if they're working with anyone, okay?
And when they say no, just, I'd be happy to help you out.
Okay. What else?
You could ask, like, do you have time in the next few days that we can meet up? That way, I can share more information with you to, bring more clarity to the buying process.
Yep. Bringing them something of value and then, just assuming that you're moving forward sometimes. That's, depending on where they're at and what they say. It's kind of like, oh, well, let's get you started with this, or, oh, I'm happy to do this or that, and then we can do, and you just start walking them through the process sometimes. What else?
When would you like to go look at some other houses similar to this one?
Yep. Yep, that's a good one. Sending them houses that are similar, right? To just increase or give them so there's more intrigue, Let's see if anybody responded to her.
Crickets. We like Jeopardy music.
Anyone? Maybe you could pull out your scripts. There might be something. May says, would you like to meet for coffee soon? Yeah. May, could we make it a little bit stronger, do you think? Why are we meeting for coffee? There are many ways to ask for an appointment or to ask for the business, but the best way to do it is to tie it to their motivation, right? So let me give you some examples. If I had a buyer that I was working with or trying to work with, I would go through the qualification with them and use that to set the appointment. So, for example, let's say they're new to the city and they just got here 2 weeks ago. They're in an Airbnb and they need to purchase soon, but they're feeling uncomfortable because they don't know the area very well. Well, I'm going to say, oh my goodness, well, welcome to Austin. We're so happy to have you. I know that it can feel a little overwhelming, but why don't we sit down? I'll learn what you're looking for exactly, and then I'd love to take you on a tour and just show you different neighborhoods that fit what you're looking for, and you can get what you want within your price range. Do you have time Tuesday at 2? It's really that simple, right? Or let's say they have a home to sell, right? We need to sell our home before we can buy. We're not really sure what that process looks like. I immediately go for, well, let me come over and tell you what your home is worth. No, that was a trick. You do not do that, okay? Let me tell you why. They do not care about their home that they have to sell. They've already decided that home is no longer for them. Their dream, all of their hopes, all of the emotion, which is what we know makes them act, is tied up in their new home. So I don't really focus on the listing that I know that I'm going to get. I focus on helping them buy their new home, because if I can accomplish that dream and make that real for them, the listing is cheese, right? It's super easy. So that conversation would go something like, well, I know that you have a home to sell and we need to sell that one first. However, I want to make sure you can get what you want within your price range and that we can get what you need from your current home to help you with your down payment for your new home. Do you have time Tuesday at 2 to sit down and talk that over? If they're a first-time home buyer, I am offering to grab my lender and let's sit down and explain the whole process to them, right? Because they're super overwhelmed. They don't know what to expect. They don't know what they need. And really, lending is one of the biggest pieces to them, the biggest hurdles. They don't know what they can afford. They're nervous about making such a big purchase. Is it a good investment, right? So together with my lender, we make a great team in coaching that first-time home buyer through that process and making them feel comfortable. Okay, so May's update was, would you like to meet for coffee soon and talk about what you're looking for in a home? Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes it's really just that simple, right? It's simply saying, hey, I know you're looking to buy. Let's sit down and have some coffee, and I'd love to hear more about what you would like. So that's it. Okay, sorry, I'm not paying attention to Slido. When will you be ready to buy? Yeah, that's a great question, because that talks to us about motivation as well. Are you working with an agent? I would love the opportunity to interview for that job. Absolutely. One of the easiest ways to ask this question without putting the buyer and I'm coming from the frame of reference of an open house, without putting the buyer off, because if you immediately say, are you working with an agent? They can get a little bit like, yes, I am. How did you know? I will say, how'd you hear about the open house? Did you follow the signs, or did your agent send it to you? Right? So it's a little bit lighter way of not putting their guard up, so that they're not thinking that you're just trying to sell to them, which we totally are. Ask them to list with you today. All right. Well, Greg, I'd love to hear your script for that, man. That sounds like a great idea. Dawn says, when could we meet? I think that that's a great script. Someone else said, let's set up an appointment and I will bring you more information on that. Exactly. So whatever their motivation was, whatever they're interested in knowing, whatever answer they have to have before they can move forward with that purchase, that's your tie to getting them to meet with you, to sign the agreement, because you can provide that and they now trust you to do so. Ozzy says, what would you say, Shayna, to a buyer that asks you, why should I use you versus another agent that my sister is trying to refer me to? That's a great question. This is when I bring up the interview part, right? I say, you know what? That's a great question. I would love the opportunity to interview for the job and tell you why I'd be the best candidate for this. And then I dig into what's important to them. So tell me, what's important to you in a real estate agent? And they'll say something like, they know what they're doing, or communication, or professionalism, or thoughtfulness, whatever it is, right? So after I ask them that question, I tailor my response to whatever they are looking for, and I give an example. So let's say they said, well, Shane, it's really important for us to have a seasoned buyer's agent to work with. I'd say, I completely understand that. I can tell you that in the past 6 years of being in this business, I've sold over 400 homes, and about 50% of them are in the neighborhood that you're looking in. So I know this neighborhood like the back of my hand. I know when homes are coming up before they come on the market. And as you know, Austin is a really hot market. You need an expert in this area to find you the right home and negotiate it on your behalf. I can't tell you who your sister is referring you to, but I can guarantee they don't know this neighborhood that you want to live in like I do. Okay, now let's just say I didn't know that neighborhood very well. I would never outright lie. But what if I didn't know that neighborhood? What if I am a super strong buyer's agent, yet I may not be familiar with the area they want to live in? What resources do I have available to me? Anyone?
Long pause.
How do you find out about an area? How do you research it? May says MLS, absolutely. So we're kind of doing like a heat report, right? What is the turnover rate in this area? How fast do homes move? Is there anything in their price range? Driving around, research, absolutely. The community impact paper, I love that. That is an Austin paper that is super hyper local. That is, it might be other places, I'm not sure, but it's really helpful. Your team, if you work with a team or even within your market center, going to the agent that knows that neighborhood really well and picking their brain. I can't tell you how many times I've bothered Gary Gentry or Jen Lewis or like anyone really in my market center say, hey, I've got a buyer looking in this area. I really don't know it. What can you tell me about it? Anonymous, local insights. You read my mind. I was going to do buyer showings down in Wimberley, which is about 45 minutes south of Austin, and I had no idea what this neighborhood was, and I wanted to make sure I was prepared for my client. I literally pulled up Kelly, pulled some local insights, and I had a few snippets I could give them that were super helpful, specifically about like water in the area and how they get it. And I looked like a professional. I looked like I knew that neighborhood because I had looked at local insights before. Really helpful. So those are some tools at your fingertips. Another one I would recommend would be Great Schools. It really helps you get to know the schools in that area and how they're rated, what they look like, get some insight onto what the parents say about them in their reviews. Your title companies are also a huge resource. They, at least in Austin, they make these really beautiful PDFs And some will even print them for you of like the best golf courses in the area, or the best school districts, or the best private schools, or summer camps. These are other things of value that you can provide to your clients that are maybe new to the area or looking at living in a different area. Any questions about any of that? Nope. Okay. Well, May, are you ready? We're going to do a little role playing. So what I'd like to do, don't be nervous, just you and me. What I would like to do is pretend that we're at an open house. And I want to walk you through the RVA. So building the rapport, showing my value, and getting their trust in return, and then asking for the business or the appointment, right? And before we jump into that, I'm gonna answer some quick questions coming through on Slido, so hang tight. So Richard says, what if they want to sell first to buy a home? Do you make sure their selling expectations are reasonable first, i.e. they think their home should sell for more? That's a great question, Richard, and I find that a lot, especially in a market like Austin where the perception is that all homes sell with multiple offers over list price in 5 days, which we know that isn't true. Absolutely. That is absolutely something that I do in the appointment. I'm not necessarily going to do that at the qualify, because I think that even if someone is maybe a little overzealous in their estimation of their home, I can use data and my knowledge to bring awareness to what the actual market is and hopefully help them see the light, right? Someone else said RPR as a resource for research. That's a great one. It's true. All right, May. So here's what's going on. You're walking into my open house, okay? And you're just going to pretend like you have no idea what's going on other than you're kind of interested in this neighborhood, okay? And my goal, and be kind to me, is to set an appointment with you. Okay? Okay, so just remember, you'll have to keep the microphone held down in order for us to hear you while you're talking.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you well. All right.
Okay. Hi, how are you today? I love this neighborhood. I just came by and I saw you was having an open house, so I decided to stop in.
Well, I'm so glad you did. Thanks for stopping in. So the house is listed at $345. It's 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, and just under 1,800 square feet. I'll be in the kitchen if you need me, so take a look around and I'll be right there for questions, okay?
All right, thank you.
And then I walk away, right? I'm not, good job looking around. I'm not really in their face, you know, hi, my name's Shayna Moats. I'm a real estate agent. Are you working with an agent, right? I wanted to put you at ease. I wanted to make you feel comfortable and like you were safe in this place, right? Not that I was just trying to, you know, snatch you up. Okay, so May, you've seen the house. Tell me, what do you think of the house?
Oh, I love this house. It's beautiful.
Really?
And you said it was going for how much?
It's listed at $345. What do you think of that price?
It could be a little lower.
Yeah, you think it's listed a little high? Do you live in this area? Do you live near here?
No.
No, okay. Have you been in Austin
I live
for
in
long?
the same school district. I'm looking for the same school district, but it's not really close.
Gotcha. Okay, what school is important to you?
The one on the corner.
Oh, that's a great school, the one on the corner. My best friend's daughter goes to that school. How old are your kids?
5 and 7.
Aw, so sweet. All right, boys, girls?
1 boy and 1 girl.
Aw, what a great mix. I bet they're adorable. Well, sometimes, yeah, I know how that is. Well, so I know that school is really important to you. You said that this home was beautiful, but it didn't seem like it quite met all of your expectations. What is it missing?
It doesn't really have a backyard.
Okay.
And it could deal with a better sink.
So what I'm
I don't like to
hearing,
sink in it.
so what
Not
I'm
deep enough.
So what I'm hearing is that you really want a larger backyard for the kids to play in, and you'd like the kitchen to be a little bit more open concept and updated. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know about what price range you're wanting to purchase in?
Around, what'd you say it was 245? I mean, you said 345, around 320.
Okay. All right. And how does the square footage feel to you? Is this a good size? Is it too small, too big?
No, it's a good size
It's a good
for
size.
people.
Yeah. Okay. Now, May, tell me this. If I were to find you a great house, but it needed some updates, are you willing to make those updates?
It depends on what the update is.
Okay. So,
Like, am I gonna want to put a whole new kitchen in? No, but a little fixture here, a little fixture there, I may be able to bend.
okay. So some light fixtures, some painting, but you don't really want to move walls or do any big renovations.
Right.
Okay. Well, I know that you've lived kind of in this area for a while, so you're pretty familiar with it. Have you already been looking at homes for sale?
Today was my day to get out and do that, and
Oh.
I just happened to see this open house.
Well, I'm so glad you walked in. Well, so I've written down my notes on what you're looking for. I get done here at 4 o'clock, and there's actually a listing down the street I'd love to show you. It's priced a little bit below your budget, but it has that big backyard you're looking for. Do you want to meet me there at 4:15 and I can show it to you?
Absolutely, that'll be fine.
That was too easy.
I was thinking like, well, the kids will be out of school. That'll be fine.
Okay, so let's say you said no.
That doesn't work for me today.
Oh, well, that's okay, May. No worries. Well, listen, talk to me a little bit about your timeline. How I know that today is just your first day out. In your ideal world, when are you living in this new home?
Oops.
Oh no, she froze. We'll give her a second. Unfortunately, she froze. Oh, there she goes. All right. Well, I would have asked about her timeline, and I would have used that to back through what happens. So let's say she had said, well, Shayna, honestly, I'm really not looking to move until my kids get out of school in May. I said, that's great. Now, where you live now, are you leasing or do you own? And she would have said, she owns. And I said, okay, well, let's talk through the timeline of how this typically works. So if you want to be in your new home in May, that means we at least need to be under contract with your new home by April, right? So that you're moving in May. And if we want to be under contract in April, we really need to start looking early March probably to make sure we find the right house for you. If we need to sell your home first, we're backing up even further, right? Because we know that it can take 30 to 60 days in this neighborhood to sell the home. So that means we're looking at right now, January. So what do you say I come over today and we talk about what it would look like, this process of selling your home and then buying another one, and make sure it fits within your timeline. There are many ways to set an appointment. Like I said, we're simply using the motivation that we found in the Qualify. Oh, May said it didn't like my response. You did wonderful. Thank you so much for role playing with me. I really, really appreciate it. So like I said, we're utilizing the motivation that we found while we were qualifying them to ask for the business to set that appointment. and assess their financing needs. This goes back to that A, B, and C buyer. This qualification is also to save you time, not necessarily to just assess the buyer and get the business, right? We want to know, are they worth my time? Can they get a loan for a home? Are they actually interested in purchasing? Or do they just enjoy looking at houses? It's like their hobby and they'll let any agent open a door for them, right? Or, like it's happened to me before where I meet a buyer at an open house and we sit down, we have the appointment. I ask them to sign the agreement before I show homes. And they say, oh, we're really not comfortable signing the agreement. Our brother is actually a real estate agent. He just couldn't show us homes today. It just happens sometimes. So that's why it's really important to qualify your buyers before you're just spending a lot of time on them. We want to make sure we're spending time on the right people. Well, that is a lot of our class today. So before I kind of wrap us up, do we have any questions or any ahas that you'd like to share from today's class? Paula asks, do you have a paper tablet to write their answers down as you're getting to know them and their needs? That's a great question. I used to bring a spiral. So whenever I was doing a lot of open houses, my setup was my laptop so I could do research right there and shoot them an email as they were leaving the open house, and a spiral notebook. And as I was qualifying them right there at the open house, I would start writing. And when I start writing, it tied them down to me. They were less likely to just walk away and walk out the door if they saw me writing down the things that they said. And then feedback later, after I worked with them a while, they would say, Shana, we went to a lot of open houses. Some of the agents ignored us. Some of them were really nice, but we really felt heard by you because you took notes on what we said. And so it helped me keep everything straight. So yes, I highly recommend bringing some sort of notebook. I just got a new iPad and it's amazing. You can, if I had it then, I would have used that to write my notes on too. Paula also asked, do you have them sign in? The right answer that I'm supposed to say is yes. The real life answer is no. And actually, David Voorhees and I have very animated arguments on this because I trained David how to do open houses and he did not listen to me. He does a sign-in sheet. I do not, because I think that it puts buyers' guards up when they have to sign in. Half of the information is wrong anyways, and so I don't do it. And as I'm getting the information from them, qualifying them, I just, without even looking up, I say, and tell me, what's your phone number and your email address? And they give it to me, no problem. If they're giving it to me, I'm getting their permission to market to them, and they're giving me the correct information. I always ask for phone number first though, because if I ask for email first and then I ask for phone number, they're going to say, no, you've got my email, just email me, right? But after you get their phone number, they're just going to hand over their email address, no problem. Okay, Paula said, if you spend that much time with a visitor, how do you not miss others who come? That's a great question. So I actually say a good open house is 6 to 7 visitors for me. And it took some time for me to figure it out, but I simply focus on the one I'm with and I don't leave them. If I have a lot of people in an open house, I'm getting to that qualification more quickly. And I'm saying things like, how'd you find my open house? Did you come in off the signs or did your agent send you? I'm getting to that question quicker so I know who I should spend time on. But once I hone in on someone, I don't let them go, even as other people come by. And sometimes I'm wrong, but most of the time it pays off. I answer questions as people come up, but I don't let these people go that I'm focused on. Rick says, when I have an objection on the lines of my XXX is a realtor, I go into agent recruiting mode. Really, who are they with? I'd love to talk to them. That's a great point, Rick. I love that. That's a great point. Okay, could you repeat the time frame? If she wanted to close in May. Absolutely. So if she wanted to close in May, I would say, all right, May. So in your dream world, you'd be in your home in May. We know it takes 30 to 45 days to close, so that means we need to go under contract in April. In order to go under contract on the right home for you in April, we need to start looking mid-March, beginning of March. And if you have a home to sell before we can even start looking, and we know that the days on market for this neighborhood is 30 to 60, that means we need to back up 30 to 60 days before that to go ahead and list your home and get it sold. So if we're looking at that timeline, we really need to get started pretty quickly. And you can draw that out a little bit. So for example, if they're a first-time home buyer, you can talk about the process of vetting lenders and understanding which one they should use. You can talk about how it's helpful to talk with a lender earlier in the process. So just in case anything pops up, they're able to address it before they find their dream house and lose it because there was something on their report they didn't know about that causes them not to be able to get financing. So you can kind of use that timeline to your benefit to help them understand why even if they're 4 months out, they could still sit down and meet with you. And let me tell you, don't think you're wasting your time having an appointment with a buyer that's 8 or 9 months out, because motivation changes like that. Okay, so I will sit down and have that appointment and then categorize them A, B, or C buyer and spend time on them according to that until their motivation changes. Someone says, I held an open house this weekend. People walk in and out. People walk in and walk out, did not want to sign in. How do you handle this? Well, I do not do a sign-in sheet for this very reason. I think that it puts people on edge. However, people that I have seen successfully do sign-in sheets will say something, they'll have a little sign at the sign-in sheet that says, seller kindly requests sign in for security reasons, something to that effect. So it's not you asking, it's the person you're holding it open for that is asking for security reasons, which could be very true. All right, any other questions? I think that might be it. So remember, this is a lab. Your feedback is incredibly important for us. So we would love to hear it. I will give you a link to a survey, the link to the survey. Okay. The link to the survey is right here. I would really, really appreciate you taking the time to fill this out. It makes me a better instructor, and it helps our people here at KWRI make this an even better class for you moving forward. It's been a joy to be here with you today, and I thank you for your time. Do not forget to fill out your daily 10-4 and your success list, which you will find in your toolkit. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Wow, it's actually Tuesday.
She left to go on a phone call,
Oh,
so
that's cool.
maybe we take a break.
I know, like, I need a pee.
I'm just gonna tell her that we're going 10-minute break.
Sitting for this long is killing me.
Hey, Troy and everybody else, she's on a phone call, Brittany, so we're gonna go on a break for 10 minutes.
Okay, sounds good.
Sounds good.
We don't either way.
Well, I just happened to look at my phone, I didn't have on vibrate, and it was her saying, hey, I really need to take a phone call.
Oh.
Can you do the things for me? And I'm like, yeah.
I wonder if you're allowed to do like a giveaway, like a door prize or something, be like, enter rooms, thank you for coming in, you know, like.
I don't see why you couldn't, I mean,
This door
it's,
prize of like a Target gift card, or whatever, for stopping by.
it's your money.
Yeah, you don't have to be present to win.
Yeah,
Put your name down. And then you can put like name, phone number, email, and like how a card that actually be pre-printed that says, oh,
I even went to eat at the Rock, and my brother-in-law was telling me about the guy that used to own the Rock. He does toy drives all the time, just to get his name out there. And on the front of the toy was leave a toy, blah, 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 and all matched with $1 donation for every toy, and then has all his information. Yeah. So it was just getting his name and number out there.